So this week, I'm going to take you in and show you the ancestor house, the place that is in some ways most important to the Dogra tradition that I work within. And then we're going to talk a little bit about, do you really believe that? Stuff like that. All right, so check it out. This week, I'm inviting you into the ancestor house. Ancestors are those folks who have been here before and who have died and who have gone to a hotter place, right? Not another place, not some sort of non-physical place. No, the heat in our bodies has left and moved into where heat goes. And so the heat, that is our ancestral line. We come from the heat. The heat comes and involves itself in the water, in the cool. Life is a play of heat and cold, fire and water. And in that, there's this idea that everything is what we might call physical, or what West African philosopher named Kwasi Wiredu calls quasi-physicalism, right? So we have this idea that there's this stuff called physical and there's this something else and we don't know what it is. And so God is not physical and our soul is not physical and maybe our emotions are not physical. So where are they? That doesn't make any sense, right? So I have emotions, you can feel them, and yet they're not physical. And so how exactly does that work? So what I'm trying to suggest is that physicality, if it's anything, is everywhere. So if there is something that is real, then it must be physical somehow, maybe differently physical. Right? And so from this West African perspective, or even any tradition that has an elemental system, we are a play of the relationships between fire and water and mineral and nature. What if we let go of the idea of belief? Belief is a particularly Christian ideal. If you ask a person, for example, in East Asia, if they believe in a religion or if they have a religion, they would say no. There's actually large percentages of people that would just answer that question in the negative. And at the same time, a large majority of those same people have an ancestor altar in their home, or maybe they have a little altar to Buddha or whatever it is that they might be practicing, right? And different groups are going to, like within one family, you could have multiple altars, but they don't believe. They do. And so there's something that we need to figure out if we're going to talk about spiritual traditions in the world, where we have to notice our own Christianity inside of us. If you grew up speaking English, if you grew up speaking Spanish or French or Italian or German, you have Christian ideas in your head. if you grew up in the United States, you're Christian, right? Even if you didn't grow up Christian, you grew up in a Christian culture, which kind of makes you Christian. You can't help but think those things. And so one of the things that Christianity teaches us is that there's a physical world, and this isn't just from Christianity, right? But it gets heightened in that tradition. There's a physical world, and then there's this perfection, the great perfection. And in order for that perfection to be really, truly perfect, it can't be tainted by the sinfulness of the body. And so more and more this ideal comes about where there's this other perfect, non-physical something, God. There's this other non-physical something that's kind of perfect too, soul, and then there's all the other stuff, which is like sin. We'll tease that out in another episode about what is sin, and right. But like what I'm really interested in today is belief. The point, like let's do it like this. Do I actually believe? Do I believe that running around in a funny outfit and saying a bunch of stuff out loud and then coming back here, right, and lighting candles for these folks and saying things to these folks and whatever it is that I might practice, do I believe that that works? Do I actually believe that the ancestors are real? Do I actually believe that the Candomblé are real? Do I actually believe that Mother Earth and Father Earth are real? Do I actually believe? Come on. You got to get over that. If you're going to get down with this, you got to get over with that, right? It's the Christian inside of you. And there's nothing wrong with Christianity. We'll talk about Christianity. But it's the Christian inside of you that needs belief. It's the Christian inside of you that needs to know if it's true, if it's real, if it's like the thing, right? So Christians started to look up to see what was really real. God is really real. Christians also, these were Christians, started to look down. Is there something really real down there? Atoms, something at bottom, right? So Christians and scientists, especially in the West, are largely Christians, even though they would like to pretend that they're not, right? They forget where they come from. Christians are looking for the real, either down, nature, or up, God, right? And a lot of other people just aren't interested in that. Belief is a Christian ideal. How do you become a Christian? You say something like this: I take Jesus into my heart and accept him as my Savior. You can become a Christian. You can't become a Dagra. You can't become a Jew. You can't become, there's lots of things you just can't become just because you say it, right? You can't be from Oakland just because you say you're from Oakland. You actually have to do things and say things and walk in ways that people will notice you as someone from Oakland. You can tell when someone's not from your town. You can tell when people aren't from around. See, here's this thing. You can't pretend to be something you're not. And in the old world, that's how it went down. In the old world, it was like this. People were what they wore. People were what they said, how they said, what they ate, who they hang out with. It's kind of the same way now. People are who they hang out with and what they do. And so the idea that you could become something, that was invented by a couple different people, right? The Buddha got down with that, and Paul got down with that. But in the old world, you couldn't just believe something. You had to be something. If someone were to ask me if I actually believe in all of this stuff, what are you talking about, man? Believe in all of this stuff. Does this stuff work? Yeah, this stuff works, right? And that's where it gets interesting. Now, here's this thing. How did we get to this place in the world right now. I'm going to tell you one version of the story. I'm going to tell this story in lots of different ways. But here goes one version. I'm sort of making it up. Here we go. The Jews are cruising around in the old world. And in the old world, you only hang out with the gods that actually work. So if your God is able to do stuff for you, then you hang out with that God. If that God stops working, then you go find another God. That's how it works. Now, check this out. Yahweh is the God of war. The Jews kept getting their butts kicked. So they have a God of war, and yet they keep losing to other people in all sorts of different ways. And so what do you do about that? In the old world, what you would do is you give up your God, right? You leave Yahweh and you go find someone else. That's what makes sense. If this dude isn't pulling his weight, you go find somebody else. But that's not what they did. They, through a very complex process, decided to keep this one God. How do you keep the God as your God that's really not showing up and doing what he says he can and should do? Here's the catch. This God becomes the God of all gods. It's not the God of this world, it's the God of all worlds. And that God is testing you. That God has placed you here in a world that doesn't always show up in the way that you want it to. And you have to have faith in him and believe in him even though it's not working out, right? And that's going to be part of the test at the end of the day if you make it into the big pearly gates. Like, did you have faith even though your faith was tested? You are the chosen people. Can you get down with that even though God doesn't always seem to show up in the ways that you would like God to show up? So that's really interesting. It becomes about, do you believe in this God, even when this God doesn't show up? That is really radical, right? That's not how the old world worked. And that's not how a lot of religion still works in, say, East Asia or Africa or even India. Like, you do what works. Within any given family, you can hang out with a lot of different gods. That's not a big deal. You know, Jesus, some folks come into town, they're like, this dude Jesus, it works for me. And you'd be like, does that work? Is that cool? Yeah, my life is better because of Jesus. I'm like, yeah, I'll try that on. Like, I'm totally down with that. I'm gonna go give me some Jesus. Why not? But that doesn't mean that I'm just gonna get down with Jesus. Because what if Jesus doesn't know how to do everything? What if I need to go to Mary for some stuff? What if I need to go to like Shiva for some stuff? What about Vishnu? And like, what about all the Yoruba Orishas? Like, there's lots of different gods. Not every god can do everything. So why would I get stuck with one God? Now here we come. Here comes this word, idolatry. What was the idol that was most problematic in the old Jewish world? It was really the idol of Yahweh's wife, right? Don't hang out with this other person. Hang out with just me. Idolatry is about jealousy. Idolatry is about jealous God who says, don't hang out with those other gods. Hang out with me. And you say, but you didn't show up, man. Like, you did not show up. I needed you, and you weren't here. And that God turns around and says, hey, man, I'm just testing you. Like, I'm the God from this bigger place, right? So I am testing you, and then someday you're going to get it. But you have to believe. And so we get this idea that there's belief, and we have to believe no matter what. And the whole sort of thing unfolds in that way and gets interesting, right? But we have to notice our Jewish roots as an English-speaking people. We have to notice our Christian roots as an English-speaking people. We have to notice our Muslim roots as English-speaking people, right? Like, without those three traditions, we wouldn't have the world that we have right now. We wouldn't have our mathematics. We wouldn't have our science. We wouldn't have our ideas about belief and internal something, whatever, blah, 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 right? Like, we need those traditions in order to be who we are. And so, do I believe in this? Man, that's not even the thing. Does this work? Yeah, it does. And so I'm going to invite you in and show you some stuff. Check it out. There's a lot of things going on this week. We just turned this thing on this week. I'm going to actually give you a little shot of what it looks like to be in here when there's other people in here and we're doing some stuff. And you're going to be like, what the hell are those people doing? You got to check it out, man. There's no other way. You got to check it out. So thank you for all coming this week.
Yeah. All right. Thank you so much for being here. Oh my God! You inspired our lives. You touched our lives. Water. Thank you. Thank you for reminding us that we always need to go downhill. Thank you for reminding us that we need to be together. Thank you for reminding us that everything we do must be received and held and seen because there's no other way to do it. Remember for us. Remind us that this is hard because it's supposed to be. Because it's supposed to be. Because it's supposed to bring us together. Because we're not supposed to be fire. Because we're supposed to be water. That we're supposed to remember that we have to call out to each other. That we need each other's tears. That we need each other's joy. That we need each other. Water. I know that we don't want to do it, but please, Mom, please remind us that we need each other. Nature, whether nature, please. Oh. We have forgotten how to call out to you. Although there's people in this room that know how to call out to you. Although there's always people in every room that know how to call out to you because we have not forgotten you. We have not forgotten you. We feel you in our bones, in our blood, in our everything that we do. We jump and we howl and we yell because we know you and you are us and we know you and that is where the magic comes from in this world. Please remember the magic in this world. Remember where these children come from. Remember how this thing happens. This happens to you, the nature spirits. Please remember that they are you. Ancestors, thank you for showing up for us today. I want to ask the nature folks to light the candles for the nature spirits. I want everyone to give a howl when they do it or some sort of weird ass.